We'll call the August 27th, 2024 purchasing.
Here.
Commissioner Gates?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Present.
Commissioner Peak?
Here.
Chairman Clark?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Mr. Vice Chair, have you had an opportunity to review the minutes for the August 13th meeting?
I have, and found them in order, and I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the minutes stand approved. We have two that are down for public comments this evening. The first is Mr. Carl Burning. Carl, if you'll come up, and you have 3 minutes and share us your ideas or thoughts, we would appreciate it.
I got some scribblings here. It won't take long to answer. Scribblings. I think nobody knows why we're here, so I just had a real short synopsis of what I have written down. Let me see. The RFPs were opened by the mayor some day, signed by the mayor, error discovered, next exchanges were made, explanations of policies by mayors. That's none of my business. I don't, you know. Back to the contracts, the RFPs on our wasteway. Only one company chose not to bid, right? Is that accurate? Anyway, the other one is wasteway off the contract.
Waste management.
Waste management. I'm sorry. Thank you, Robert. I don't even know who I'm talking to. The only thing on my mind is to review this. The only thing to do is to review the waste management contract and say yea or nay. Now, I guess these things that I'm just throwing out there need to be determined by attorney is see if this can be done. And that's to avoid appearance of impropriety. Hold one televised meeting with a discussion of the contract. Maybe even give another member of the committee to chair the meetings. Have the county attorney, county finance director, county solid waste director, and mayor attorney on hand. Now, as to what goes on here today, threats of lawsuits by somebody else have been discussed, and several times I've heard it. A good contract prevents lawsuits, in my mind. Members, meaning you all, should only vote on facts and documents. So you know, fears or whatever, or rumors don't carry any weight. It shouldn't. And I hope you'll all vote for absolutely what is best for all of Rutherford County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burning. Next, we have Ms. Susan Allen. Ms. Allen, if you'll come forward, and because you're on the mic now, if you just say your name and your address, that you know that this is the drill better than anybody. Thank you, Ms. Allen.
Thank you. My name is Susan Allen. I live on Nelson Lane in Murfreesboro, and I'm here tonight representing the Rutherford Neighborhood Alliance. As I expressed in the email I sent to all of you yesterday, the RNA has been discussing the issues surrounding the waste management bid. I'd like to clarify one point. We mistakenly assumed there was general agreement about the contract because of the statements by commissioners at county meetings, and also that Michael Smith said the numbers on the contract worked. What we heard sounded very positive. It would be helpful if you could explain for the public the process from when a bid comes in to the awarding of the contract. We understand that the Rutherford County purchasing policies and procedures states that the bids are supposed to be opened in a public meeting of the purchasing committee, and upon approval by the committee, a purchase order would be issued and sent to the vendor. We could find no reference to a bid or contract vetted by the purchasing committee and then going back to be vetted by other standing committees. I'm guessing that may be what is meant when something is taken under advisement, so I hope you can clarify that for us. From our observations, it seems clear that there are two parts to this dilemma, one being the contract and the other being the procedural error. We've followed every public works meeting and every presentation by vendors trying to convince you that their solution for handling our waste would be the one that would work. It's been years. We totally supported the county transfer station because it was a step in the right direction, even though it was only Plan B to prepare for the closure of Middle Point. A request for proposals for the last step in this process was made and a bid was received. We urge you to vet that contract tonight as if it had never been opened and signed previously, so you can move this process along to a conclusion. This would offer several significant advantages. Starting over would be time-consuming and costly. Determine if the current contract is legally and financially solid. Starting over could introduce uncertainty and risks, particularly if the new terms are less favorable. Honoring the contract maintains a good relationship with the sole vendor who submitted a bid and prevents possible legal challenges or unintended liabilities. Waste Management could decide not to go through with another RFP, leaving the county with either no vendor or with a bid from a less desirable one. As far as the procedural error is concerned, in the interest of ethical and voter-responsive government, we believe it is important the Commission address the mistakes that were made, but separately from the issue of vetting the waste management contract. This will ensure accountability is addressed, transparency is maintained, and the integrity of our local government is upheld. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. We're now into item 5. We have taken under advisement the Road County Recovery Court petitions. There is Ron, you're just in time.
Am I?
Yes,
Okay.
you're up.
All right. Sorry
And
to
take it too. I did just saw him. Thank you. So we're to item 5, which is the Recovery Court bid that you have reviewed along with Mr. Adam Dodd. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you have a recommendation for the committee. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, proceed, please.
Okay, just to bring up the date, we had, excuse me, a little bit out of breath, but we had bids. The highest one was $1.3 million. The lowest was $801,000. And so that was from FTM contract. In the review of that, what we did was took a look at their past projects. If you go to their website, they talk about fuel maintenance, fuel tank maintenance, but in fact they've done construction projects. And they've done a lot of work with us as well. I'll pass these around. I don't know how many I have, but you can do.
Sure, guys. Thank you, Ron.
Okay, so we start off with let's go to the third page, which is current projects. There's a packet of 12 pages worth of current projects, and within it you'll see that there's a couple that have been highlighted in yellow, and those are projects with our office. And the partner there was Robert Sweeney, and he was pleased with their work. In general, if you look at their projects with state work, it's a good construction project.
Hold on just a second.
Yep.
You said page 3.
Well, it starts with current projects.
It's page 3 from there, or just the current project?
Current projects.
Okay. You said it was highlighted somehow, somewhere?
Yeah, if you look through a couple of pages back, you see some projects that are highlighted in yellow.
Okay. Thanks.
So they have current projects, and then they have a list of completed projects. In our estimation, they've done some good work. We take a look at, from that, we take a look at the letter that they sent us, which is recognition of the fact that, and confirmation of their bid. They recognize the fact that they have in there $85 a cubic yard for soils, and they have included the allowance. The first page on the packet is a letter from Bart Klein recommending that they be awarded the project.
According to your analysis, in Mr. Klein's letter, FTN is the low bidder at $801,500. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And that is your recommendation, is that correct?
That is correct. That's our recommendation.
Questions from the committee?
Are these folks local? Where Where are they based?
They are
Are they not Cookville?
Cookville,
Cookville.
yes.
Frequently.
When you said current projects, are these ones that they've done or the ones that they're in the middle of doing?
They are in the process of working those projects currently.
Okay, and you said that there was a page of completed,
If you go to the couple of pages after that, there's another completed projects list.
gotcha.
And within those completed projects is a few that have been yellow highlighted.
Ron, how long has how long have they been in business?
Well, if you go through some of these, you'll see that, I don't know for sure, but some of these projects go back a few years. I don't know how long they've been in business. I don't know.
Does any member of the committee recognize that they may have done business with Rutherford County before? You're not aware of that, but the silence means we don't know.
If you take a look through their project list, they've done a lot of state work. And I think in here, there's, enough projects that you can discern whether they're capable or not.
1999, they've been in business for about 25 years. Thank you, Carl.
They've done several things for MTSU.
FTM is the lowest bid.
Correct.
And it's also recommended by Ron.
Correct.
I don't see any reason to go any further. I make a motion to approve FTM contract.
Second.
Okay, so just hold on a second. We got a motion for FTM and a second, and the part of the motion will it will go to Budget Committee for funding, because this hasn't been funded. Michael, did you want to say something?
Needs to be, if there's a motion, it needs to be expressly contingent upon budget and commission approval.
Correct. So that is the motion. Contingent on budget and commission approval, which is a departure from what the purchasing committee normally does, but that's why the motion needs to be stated that way.
Thank you for pointing that out. Make that part of the motion, my motion, Carl, if you would.
Okay. We have a proper motion, we have a proper second. Do we have any further discussion? Mr. Gooch, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One question for clarification. There was another bidder whose unit price or cubic yard was, I think, $15 cheaper. But not that, and the bid was roughly $52,000 higher. I'm assuming that $15 would not add up to be more than.
It will not, because we have 500 cubic yards within the contract. And so if you take that $15 times the 500 cubic yards, it's not going to amount to that much.
Okay.
Yeah, that really is a good point, but I think that clarifies it.
Any other questions? Seeing none, no objection. Carla, call the roll.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
Chairman Carr?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ron. Jacob,
Yes,
good
sir.
work, as usual, as always.
Thank you.
We now go to item 6. This is new business. Mike, is this why you're here? You and Mark. Mark, we're opening the bids for the road project. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Change order, do you want to discuss that?
I don't know anything about a change order, Ron. It's not on the agenda. Hold on a second, Mark. What are we talking about, Ron?
This would have been.
I didn't get anything from KSA on change order.
Okay,
Agenda.
this was the change order at transfer station. You wanted a further discussion on that?
I don't know anything
Okay.
about what you're talking about, to be
Okay.
quite honest with you.
We had talked about it earlier, and I thought maybe you needed some
We
further
talked
clarification.
about it at our last meeting in Changeville.
Yeah.
Oh, this is old business then, okay.
Right.
This is from the last meeting, okay, I thought you were talking about another change order, so I'm going.
No, not another one. I didn't know if you wanted to go into that.
I thought we voted on it and agreed.
Okay.
I approved it.
I thought we did as well. I apologize, gentlemen, but I'm kind of confused what it is that Mr. Constantino is bringing to my attention.
That's where we did away with the plywood. that we
Right.
found.
Yeah, I thought we approved that.
So are we talking about, I mean, so why?
That was change order 2. Change order 1 was the electric change. And that's the one I thought you wanted further clarification.
You want to explain what the electric change is? Because I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. There was a change on electric due to the fire pump being, instead of brought from the panel, it was going to go underground to a pole. And it has certain advantages, and there was a cost change. What it amounts to is an additional amount of $1,900.
I thought the recommendation from from Bart Klein was to pull that out of contingency.
Yes, that's correct.
So if we're pulling out of contingency, that's not a change order that comes here.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Never mind.
Thanks for the information.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Clinton. Okay. All right. Mark? You want to explain to the committee what it is we're doing?
We are opening bids for the landfill road contract. And this is off of Jefferson Pike and goes to the waste management, pretty much scales area.
The transfer station?
Yeah, it goes, up to the transfer station driveway and scales. And I'll pass these out, and you all can record the vendors and their bid amounts. If you want. What I usually do is go through these more meticulous. I don't know if you all want to take that time for me to do that and check make sure they meet all the requirements.
How many bids we got?
We received 2 bids in. The first bid is from Hawkins and Price.
And we had 4 pickup bid documents.
And we only received 1 copy on this one.
And that is fine. I would say we're probably, although it's at the will of the committee, it's based on prior experience, we'll take it under advisement, just because of the complexity of the bid. So
It has to be kind of expensive too, right?
it's not going to be a cheap bid, I wouldn't expect. And it's going to be somewhat complicated because of what we've acquired with regard to reclamation as opposed to other technology. So, and Mark can go into that. Mark, so you're free to give us as much or as little as this as you want, or the committee wants, since you're probably going to review the bids in more detail at a later date anyway.
So
I'd just like to know the bottom line.
I figure that's probably what everybody wants to know. I won't bore you with all these little checklist items.
Because you're going to do this anyway, correct? As
Right.
part of the process. Thank you very much.
Right. So, turn right to the bid amount. The bid form for Hawkins and Price. The base bid is $8,210,596.25. And they have a total unit price item of $5 million. I didn't leave room write that, so you could choose to write it below there, since we only have 2 bidders. You can write that below there, it's $5,069,000 and that is unit price.
What, can you define unit price, please?
Okay, so we put in here, in case they come upon items that are unexpected, such as unsuitable undercut material, and to haul that material to an on-site location, or to haul it or dispose of off-site. Replace unsuitable material with on-site soil or with off-site soil, and replace unsuitable material with granular material, which we have specifications for that. Replace the unsuitable material with 8-inch maximum limestone shot rock, and finer, well-graded stone, and the specifications are given for that. Replace unsuitable material with 18-inch maximum particle size for the given specification. And we try to come up with volumes that would be have an impact on their bid, so they have weight to it. So I'm not saying anybody would take advantage of a lower number, but if possible, so we put higher numbers, and it's a guesstimate. We don't know what's under the surface. So don't let that $5 million scare you. These are
It's easy for you to say.
Well, it's elevated quantities, because we don't know what's underground. We'd rather be on the higher side with that. So that's what the unit price items are.
I'm probably going to show a lot of ignorance here, but why is it defined as a unit?
Because on road project, what you do is you do quantities for items, and they get paid for those quantities, and other types of projects as well. On the site work contract, we did a lump sum, but on road projects, you typically, well, you always do unit price, and you measure the quantities that it could be the delivery tickets from the suppliers, and it may be haul tickets for truckloads of material. And that's a fair way of doing it. It would really, in my opinion, it would be unfair to expect a contractor to eat unsuitable, unforeseen items, and so we try to make them. That's a good question. We try to make it fair to everyone. So that unit price item, it brings the total bid. And again, don't let this number scare you, but I would look at the $8 million more. But for the total, this is $13,279,596.25. Does anyone want me to repeat these numbers?
Apparently not.
Okay.
For your, yeah,
Can I keep this?
it's an original.
You going to need to make a copy?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And
And
the originals stay in the office, but we can have you a copy.
I'll need to put this back in there.
Yes.
Keep those together.
Yes, please.
In my mind, I always question, why they put that 25 cents on there? It just blows my mind.
And the second bidder is from Jarrett Builders,
Can you spell that?
Jarrett.
Say it again, please.
Jarrett.
And by the way, we had 2 addendums on this project. We extended the bid date on one of those to today, and in order to get more bidders, we did have 4 pickup plans, and I think the geotech report said that full depth reclamation of the pavement that's out there. And that is, that's something that not all bidders are accustomed to, all contractors. We have seen that done. In fact, our company has done one on Ocala Road years ago. That road is handled, holding up tremendously well. And I go out there regularly, my daughter lives out there. So there's been other places in the county that's been used, but it's not something that is widely used. So my thought is it's probably scared off some bidders. And okay. And over here to the bid items. Okay, so the Jarrett Builders base bid is $7,598,000, $0.00. And the total unit price items is $4,981,350.00. And the overall total is $12,579,000, $350.00. The apparent low bidder is Jarrett Builders. We will review the bids and qualifications and requirements for bidding, and we can make a recommendation to you all if that's what you want.
If that is your suggestion, then that recommendation would come to us at the next meeting, which will be September 10th.
Informed of the motion.
We have a motion to take this under advisement until September 10th. Does that give you enough time, Mark?
Oh, about plenty, yes.
We have a second from Commissioner Johnson. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor of putting this under advisement until September 10th, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Mark, are you familiar with both of these companies?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Yes,
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say that we appreciate the bidders taking the effort. It's a tremendous amount of effort to put together bids such as this. It's very detailed, and I'm sure they had to do some research in order to determine if they really wanted to get involved in full depth reclamation. So, again, thank you all for bidding.
Mark, where are they from?
Jarrett is out of Nashville, and Hawkins and Price is Wartrace. Any further questions for Mr. Lee? Thank you. Before we get to item 7, which is our last item, I'm going to read a brief statement with our personal privilege, if I may. This will be brief. Recently, there has been and continues to be a great deal of concern on the part of several county commissioners to my recent procedural error regarding the waste management RFP. Because of the continued response, I did some research. In 2021, the Tennessee Comptroller gave an audit finding to the previous county mayor because he violated TCA 12.3.1205, which specifically governs the use of county governments to purchase through a cooperative. This violation resulted in the passage of a county resolution in accordance with the corrective action plan stipulated by the Comptroller's office. Even though there are significant differences between the previous mayor's actions that resulted in an audit finding by the Comptroller's office and my own, I nevertheless felt it important, for transparency's sake, to contact the Tennessee Comptroller's office to seek their guidance. After explaining in detail the sequence of events surrounding the procedural error, the Comptroller's office asked me the following questions. 1. Did I contact the vendor and notify them that there was a procedural error in the signing of the contract? I explained that I sent the vendor a detailed email explaining that according to our private act, without approval from the purchasing committee, that my signature is not binding. 2, the second question was, the comptroller's office then asked if the county had paid any invoices off the contract. I told her no, that the earliest effective date of the contract would have been January 1, 2025, and as such, no invoices or bills were received. 3, and finally, as a result of the procedural error, she asked, have you submitted a new unsigned RFP contract for the purchasing committee to review to ensure that the process outlined in your private act is followed? My response was that the purchasing committee was meeting this evening, August 27th, to take up the matter in compliance with our private act and state law. It was at this point she pointed out to me that she wished other elected officials were as proactive as that I had been in contacting her. She said that there were no laws broken and that there was nothing here that could not be fixed. Indeed, she referenced that mistakes happen and that the best course of action is to stop and try to get the process back on track. She thanked me for calling her, saying, make sure you keep all records, but this is no big deal. And with that, we'll move to item 7, which is the RFP for waste transfer station waste management contract. The proposal, there's a proposal from the county commission in a 13-8 vote to rescind the action taken by the purchasing committee on August 13th that rejected the RFP bid from Waste Management for loading, hauling, and disposal for the waste transfer station, reissue the RFP. That is the action that was requested by the county commission on behalf to the purchasing committee.
Maybe the wording might be a little off. Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, but the county commission asked the purchasing committee to reconsider.
Yeah, that's correct. My recollection from the county commission meeting was that it was going to be sent back to here upon request, and the mayor agreed to put it on as the chairman of this committee on the agenda. I was asked about the legal form of a potential motion that could be put forth to essentially undo what was done at the last committee meeting. And in terms of that legality, the proper wording would be a motion to rescind. There's a legal distinction between that and a reconsider. So just so everybody understands, has clarity, the exact proposal listed on the agenda didn't come word for word from the commission, but in looking at this and considering whether the committee wanted to undo what they did last time, which I think was the intent of the request to explore whether this committee wanted to do that, the proper legal form of that motion would be as it's listed on the agenda.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gooch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You are correct that the commission as a body is requesting that we reconsider our action from last month. I think the first thing that we would need to do that, and so that we can put everything on the table and discuss it, is to rescind our action of last month. So I move that we rescind the action of the purchasing committee to reissue the RFP, and that's my motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion?
Yes, quite a bit. First thing, Nick, why don't you come up to the table, because I got several questions for you. We just heard the mayor read 3 questions that he asked the comptroller. I want you to reread the 3rd question.
You were mistaken, Commissioner Fee. These are not questions I read to the comptroller. These are the questions that she read to me.
3 questions, right?
3 questions she asked me. The 3rd
Okay.
question was, as a result of the procedural error, have you submitted a new, unsigned RFP contract to the purchasing committee to review to ensure that the process outlined in your private act is followed? My answer was,
I don't, you can stop right there. She's basically asking if we're following our rules.
that's correct.
What we did last time was to say, we want to follow our rules and redo this bid. And that's basically my understanding of what she's stating there and asking that question. Dick, what's your opinion on that? You're our attorney.
I am your attorney. That is a true statement.
Well, we can agree on that.
We sure can. And I'm hopeful that this body today can come to some agreement in whatever form that takes. Because I think at least being an outward spectator of the last few weeks, it's been a very trying time, I think, for the commission as a whole and for the county mayor's office. And if I speak out of turn, I apologize for that. I can't attest to what the comptroller has told the mayor or not. I was not subject to that discussion. I have no reason to doubt that the statements from the mayor are anything but truthful. With that said, I think it's at least been brought to light publicly that the contract was signed without the requisite authority of this purchasing committee, which does not follow the requirements of the private act. So the short answer to your question is just that. Last committee meeting, though, it was explained that there are various options that the committee could take that I think could have legally rectified the procedural error in not getting this committee's approval prior to signature, one of which would have been to ratify the agreement. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It did not.
Okay.
The question is, and it seems to me from the question that's being asked, is are we following our rules? Basically, as a new RFP being sent out.
Oh, I see. Well, I don't issue RFPs.
Right, well, I'm just saying, it sounds to me like that's what she's asking or wanting. That's the way I took that question. Now, maybe I'm not. But I want to preface this with a couple of things. I've been working on this problem with our waste since I got elected in 1998. This is nothing new, okay? I've been on the Public Works Committee. And if you remember when the GNRC came down with a recommendation to expand the Republic landfill, there were 4 commissioners that fought against that and persuaded the other 21 of us to vote along with that, and some of them didn't need it explaining, but I happen to be one of those 4, and I still feel the same way. But I want to be able to do business with Waste Management. I want to do business with Republic as we're needed to. So there's no bias as far as I'm concerned. You know, I think all our goals are the same way. My goal is to do it legally, to do it the right way, and we haven't done that. I think we can all agree with that, even the mayor. But I've seen threats of lawsuits. I've seen accusations that commissioners on this committee have been in cahoots with Republic. You know, that's, to me, not acceptable with anybody I'm going to do a contract with. Now, I question if those statements were true. And what I'd like to say is, regardless of what else we decide here today, I'd like for our commission chairman and our Public Works chairman to contact Waste Management and talk to them about some of these obvious problems. And I think explain to them that we want to do business with them, but we want to do it the right way. And that'd be a request I'd make outside of this. But I want everybody to know where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to squash the mayor's contract. When I made this motion last time we met, I really didn't want to put in there, throw out the contract, because I hadn't researched the contract. It may have been perfectly fine. I'd be perfectly fine if we put out the very same RFP and we got the very same bid. I don't care, as long as it's open here as advertised in front of us at the time and date it's supposed to do. And that's the law. That's what I'm after, is following the law. Now, I haven't dug into the contract that much. What I have makes me question the numbers. Now, I've talked to Michael. Michael said the numbers worked. The numbers worked if the numbers are correct, but we don't know that those numbers are correct. And again, we agreed that this would go from this committee to Public Works. but I also suggest that it goes to budget. Now, the reason I say that, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of us here, and there's 3 of us at least that's on Public Works. You know, Commissioner Phillips is sitting in. I think you're not a voting member of Public Works now, but anyway, if you put those together and the ones that are missing on Public Works, which is Piercy, James, and McMurray, I believe that's right.
Yeah.
Then if you add the 4 that haven't seen it on budget, that would give us only 9 commissioners that would review this, budget and Public Works. And I don't mind at all reviewing this contract, but I think it needs to be thoroughly vetted. I think our attorney has suggested that in the past. But after he's read this to me, it seems to me that this comptroller is saying, hey, follow your rules. I mean, consent.
Commissioner P., that you're mischaracterizing the conversation completely. The conversation was, from time to time, the procedure, there are procedural errors. What she specifically said was that there's a way to get back to the rules and that there were no state laws broken. There were no laws broken and there are no laws broken. And they said get back to the process. What Chairman Phillips and Commissioner Gooch are saying is, through the advice of the attorney, was let's rescind the vote that was taken in here previously, and then the comptroller's office is saying that literally puts the county back in the posture of starting over. That's what she said. So you're somewhat mischaracterizing my statement, and I find that
You need to
unfortunate.
read your statement again.
No, I don't need to, Commissioner, but thank you.
That's if we do another RFP.
No,
I
no,
understood it.
no, that's not what she said.
That's what you read.
That's not what I'm getting.
That is not correct.
If I remember correctly, Mr. Chairman, you mentioned that she said this is no big deal.
That's correct.
And that would suggest to me that this is not the first time this has happened in the state of Tennessee.
That is correct.
She appreciates you calling and saying, how do we get back on track? The RFP was accepted from Public Works, if I can remember correctly. It went out with full disclosure, full transparency. What we failed to do was take the 2 packages that came in and open them up here. And so to get back on track, what I'm seeing the comptroller saying is let's open up those 2 packages tonight. We will probably take it under advisement and we can send it to Public Works for their review. But the first thing we have to do is rescind what we did last month.
Nick, if this committee votes to rescind the previous 4-2 vote, what's the posture of the RFP to this body?
Yeah, so I think it places the matter back on the table as it was immediately prior to the last committee's vote. And I'd also like to say that the requirements, many of the requirements in the Purchasing Act are primarily for the benefit of the bidders who are submitting bids. In that regard, when there are multiple bids, you want to ensure that there isn't any sort of collusion or any other sort of improprieties in the bidding process. So from an exposure standpoint of the process not having been followed, really standing for that would lie with other aggrieved bidders. And to my understanding, in this matter, there were none. There were 2 submissions, one from Waste Management and one from somebody else that was a...
Ray County.
Ray, Mayor, you would know, I haven't seen it, but...
Yeah, they just say, basically, Ray County sent a letter that they were not going to submit a bid proposal.
And
Probably we hadn't seen that either. Thank you.
And I think that
Hopefully we're going to see it tonight.
the mayor has
That's correct.
brought those and the RFP, and so there was a little bit of a pickle when these bids came in. The bid advertisement was not correct in its wording, and so the idea was to be as transparent as possible, open them publicly at the time advertised, and then represent them here to the purchasing committee. And that step did not happen, and I think the mayor has stated that it didn't happen. And I think the legal position for the county would be that there's not a binding contract because that step wasn't followed. However, now that the committee has had a few weeks to digest this, and it has hopefully in some form or fashion seen the contents of the waste management contract, if you have a desire to consider waste management as the sole bidder in this, I think that from a on the whole perspective, you could do that by the ways in which we have discussed so far.
We have a motion and a second to rescind. Any further discussion on the motion to rescind?
I think the questions, and thank you for that question, Mr. Chairman, the questions I think that Robert brought up had to do with that third statement, that what I was hearing, Nick, indicated that the process, a new RFP needed to be written. That's what I think Robert is saying, and are you saying something different?
Much different. I'm saying the process, you get the process back on track by bringing it back to purchasing. She made this clear. There's a way to get it back on track without issuing a new RFP. We have the option of issuing a new RFP, but that is not the only option to getting it back on track.
That's not exactly what I heard from that statement. So
That's not what I said.
Well,
That's not what, it's not clear.
Well, it may not be clear, Commissioner, but it's what she said. So I'm glad you're asking me to clarify.
Yeah, please do.
So I'll read it again. As a result of the procedure, have you submitted a new unsigned contract? In other words, we're not submitting the signed contract tonight, we're submitting an unsigned contract. It's the same contract, just not signed. That's the issue for review. When I brought the previous contract to this body, it was the signed contract. She said, if you're going to start over, just bring the RFP and the unsigned contract.
I thought you said RFP, now you say contract.
No, I say both, Mr. Johnson, RFP/contract. We brought the RFP and the contract here tonight to discuss. The contract we brought has not been signed by me because the previous contract was not binding.
Could I read that, please?
No, these are my personal notes based on a conversation.
Is the RFP that we currently have, was that approved by any committees?
It came out of the Public Works Committee.
And
The
the
Public
votes-
Works authorized the RFP.
7-0, am I correct?
No, sir, you're saying who wrote the RFP. Public Works issued the RFP for the waste hauling and disposal.
Okay. And so that was done as procedural. And again, I'm thinking where we need to pick up is where we left off, which is opening up the contract/bid from Waste Management and the packet from Ray County.
That is what the Comptroller's office said would get us back on track.
Nick, got a question for you. If you read personal notes in a public place, is that not now public, subject to public knowledge?
I think
If somebody requested to see his notes and see he read them,
I'm not prepared to make that opinion as I sit here, and I hope you can appreciate that. But
and I do.
But the meeting is being recorded, so if anybody's inclined to go look at it tomorrow on YouTube, you can.
From everything I've always read, being on the county commission 18 years before and 2 more now, we've always been told, anything I've read said, anything that comes across the table during the meeting, if I make a note, just sitting here, if I make a note, a personal note to myself, Ms. Allen comes over and wants that note, I have to give it to her. This is a public meeting. I'm a part of this committee, and I've asked for a document just for my clarification because it sounds like it was read 3 different ways. I want to read it, and then I know what I'm reading. And I've asked for that officially, and I was denied. And I think that is against any rules that we have.
Nick, if I could try to refocus it here a little bit. The motion to rescind and create some of this discussion, probably we could go ahead and make make a decision there, but the conversation that we're having is what we do after we rescind it right now, I think. But let me just ask you, the mayor's read a statement, and some people heard that the RFP needed to be reissued, and he's saying that's not what he said. But does that need to happen? Can we reconsider the whole process by saying, okay, the RFP was sent out, we got the bids, and these are the two bids, and then we can examine those two bids and go forward? Is that legal without going against what the comptroller said about?
Candidly, my head's starting to spin a little bit.
Join the club.
Yeah, so again, the procedures that are in place with regard to the bidding process are for the protection of the bidders. Okay? And I think everybody acknowledges that the procedure wasn't done right. From an exposure perspective, there weren't multiple bidders that would be complaining. Republic, any other hauling company, they didn't submit bids, and they could have submitted bids. Okay? And if they had, and there had been some procedural errors, those aggrieved parties may be in a better position to call foul. But they didn't bid, even though it was legally advertised. And so now this committee is faced with understanding that there was a contract that was signed that didn't have this committee's approval. And there is the option still to rectify that and go through as close of a okay process as you can get to by examining this and vetting it publicly so that taxpayers of Rutherford County know what deal is getting entered into. If this committee does not want to do that and reissue the RFP, you have that prerogative as well.
I think what we're getting into right now is kind of more of the same discussion that we had, and what the county commission asked us to do, and what I'm prepared to do is to revisit this thing and have that discussion on it. Not that I'm going to change my vote or change my mind, but the county commission has asked me to do something, and that's exactly what I'm going to do, is what they asked me to do, and I'm going to do it with an open mind. And my open mind, people, are what's in the long-term best interest of Rutherford County citizens. And if we can make sure that we're standing firm on legal ground as it relates to heading forward with the current RFP and the current bid process, I might look at it entirely differently than I've looked at it before. That's what I'm asking, those assurances that if we look at the bid process like we've never looked at it before, and we see that we've got only one bidder, and we want to vet that through the committee process, you think that we're on firm legal ground?
I would be doing a disservice if I were to proclaim that in no event would there be legal exposure, because it's not perfect. It's not perfect, but and there are risks either way. But on the whole, I think that that's part and parcel of what a county of this size and a business of this size makes every day. It's evaluating the risk.
Also, Commissioner P mentioned the possibility of calling Waste Management. Have you had any conversations with them, with Waste Management, that it's not privileged that you could share with us, or you feel comfortable in sharing with us?
I can tell you that recently I received a call from their legal counsel.
Yeah.
Would it be appropriate for Chairman Phillips and possibly Chairman Johnson to have a conversation with them about some of these accusations we've seen? or statements that we've seen that have been sent to us by email.
I'd have to get back to you. I'm not sure.
I mean, and the reason I'm asking that is because I'd like to do business with these people, but I don't understand the stuff that I'm seeing coming from that company. It doesn't make sense. It makes sense to work with us.
On that thought, I don't know how much is coming from that company. Because the way I see it, it's coming from other places and not coming from that company. Very good company. And I want to work with them. Mr. Mayor, I think you'd have to agree that I've shown you more grace than anybody else on this commission. If you to deny me the access to that document that you read publicly here, your version anyway is what we heard, for you to deny me that publicly is a slap in the face. I tell you, I can't show you much grace anymore. I want to do right, but it's hard, very hard. When you're trying to do right, you go up against opposition time after time. It's even harder. But I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Because I've caught flack from many of the commissioners for showing you grace. I'm not done with that because that wouldn't be right either. And I don't hold a grudge. But you need to start working with the commission better than you have. Better than you have.
Mr. Chairman, I call for a vote.
Call for a question.
We got a call for the question. Carl, call the roll.
Yes, sir.
The motion is to rescind the previous vote.
And can it be as the language as stated on the agenda?
It can be.
Is everybody okay with that? Thank you.
Commissioner Phillips.
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo.
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd.
No.
Commissioner Gooch.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
No.
Commissioner Peay.
No.
Chairman Carr.
Yes. The vote is rescinded. Now, Nick, for clarity's sake, can you tell us exactly what the posture is now?
I'll try.
As best you can, please.
I don't sit in on these purchasing committee meetings. Some of you have more hair than me. I am losing it rapidly by the day. So you might know better than me. But I think how this typically goes is the bids that were received are passed out. So that probably should be your first step.
Okay.
Is there someone, Eric or someone that could kind of summarize the RFP? I understand it was like 90 pages.
It was. The RFP was 90 pages, and if the committee wants to indulge, I know representatives with Waste Management are here, and they can probably do a better job summarizing their RFP than anybody on the committee could, but that we would have to go out of session and hear that if that is the will of the committee. Without objection, we'll go out briefly to hear from Waste Management. Who from Waste Management would like to speak about the RFP submittal? Don?
Sure.
Thank you. If you will come forward and introduce yourself and your title, where you're
Sure.
from, and just what basically I think what Chairman Phillips is asking is just to summarize the RFP that you submitted. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, in essence, a summary as to
What services were provided?
what, yes, what the RFP asks for.
Sure. So my name's Don Gentilcore. I'm the Director of Disposal Operations for WM. I'm based in Nashville in the Franklin office. So what we responded to is
Can I go ask the Health and Ed to
They're gonna wait.
I'm sorry,
They know that we're gonna be delayed. They're there.
are they conducting meetings?
And not till we get done.
Perfect, thank you. Excuse me, Carl, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so what we responded to is, in this request for proposals is the transportation disposal of waste from the Rutherford County Transfer Station. So we provided a combined price of $62 a ton for the first year. And we also provided a disposal only number to the county for $40 per ton.
What was that again?
Provided
Last part,
a $40 per ton disposal only number.
on the number. Right, I don't
Disposal only. If the county elected to go disposal only, we'd be at $40 a ton.
understand. And us do our own hauling, is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Okay.
So that's what a 90-page RFP said?
Yes, sir. I mean, generally, look, I mean, we, you know, as discussed already, the RFP was published on June 16th. We responded to it. You can see it's a lengthy submittal. A lot of our qualifications as a company. Obviously, we have extensive experience in not only the transportation disposal services, but also operation of transfer stations. We have, at that time, we had 2 landfills in Middle Tennessee that we could manage the waste at. We now have a 3rd as well that we added in. So we have certainly the capacity to perform for the county. We have the experience. We operate several transfer stations in Middle Tennessee. I supervise personally 30 post-collection facilities across 4 states, including 9 transfer stations and 20 landfills. So our team is certainly prepared to manage the county's waste for a long time.
So another quick question on that.
Yes, sir.
$62 per ton, that's disposal and y'all hauling. Is that also the handling at the transfer station?
That is
So that's not your base price then?
that's right.
But
We
that's
provide-
not part of the RFP?
That's correct.
That's separate?
That's correct.
So that, in a nutshell, explains the RFP. So from this perspective, it's probably more discussion than we would have had at a normal purchasing meeting about an RFP, but it appeared that the RFP had some flaws in it as well, as far as opening bids and those kind of things. Am I right or wrong?
You're exactly correct. This RFP was generated out of Public Works, and it was generated out of Public Works, given to H&A to generate the RFP. H&A used a process that they thought they could duplicate when they were hired as an engineering contractor, which was inappropriate, which is how things started off the track. So the answer to your question is, the RFP, it's a good RFP, but the process in the RFP that outlined the procurement piece to it was in error. It didn't conform to the project.
Who hired H&A?
H&A was hired by Public Works.
Thank you.
Don? If I may ask
Oh,
another question.
by all means.
You know the kind of pickle that we've got here, where we've got problems with our statute not being followed. And what I've wanted to do is reissue this same RFP. Are you in the position to state whether or not, if we issue a new RFP, you would say you would put the same bid out there? You know, I'm not opposed to that. I'm opposed to us not following our rules. That's why I've had heartburn with this all along. I'd love to do business with you guys. You know, and I'm not trying to put y'all in a hard spot.
I mean, look, I can answer it this way. We participated in the RFP process as it was stipulated. There was a public opening in the mayor's office that we were present for. We provided what we feel like is a very fair bid to the county. We went through the process with the mayor's office and the county attorney to negotiate a contract over 6 or 7 months. You know, not only, we are the most qualified vendor, there's no doubt about it, you know, to be able to manage this waste for the county in the long term. This is the 3rd RFP we've responded to. in regards to alternate solutions for the county. We've been very transparent and supportive of the county through this process. I mean, the county ended up going with a different engineering firm during part of this transfer station design process. We offered to have them come to our facilities, look at them, get design ideas. Our subcontractor, MDI, worked with the county to give them ideas in terms of handling the waste properly and some other, improvements to the transfer station process so that you could come up with the best product for the county. So, I mean, we certainly feel like we put forth our best effort in this process, and we gave the county a reasonable price and a reasonable contract to perform the service. So, I mean, quite frankly, putting this out to RFP again, I mean, we feel like our numbers are out there, our contract terms are out there for the public. We all know costs have gone up in past years, it's not a secret. So.
And if I may add to that, Ms. Allen's letter and her comment this evening is that we would risk not getting the outcome that we could get, could be much worse, to rebid the same RFP. And I think you're right. I mean, to ask, would you come up with the same bid? It's kind of like asking, okay, we're going to give all your competitors the answers to your test questions, and it just, no good could come from that.
What competitors?
Anyone who decided to bid.
Who would that be?
Whoever.
Well, in my opinion, there are not the two that could do that job. There's the one. The other one's already refused to bid, and I don't imagine they'll do it again. That's my guess.
But what if they did?
Well, I think
They have all the information.
If they came back with the same contract, I would more likely accept his contract. That's what I'm saying. If somebody comes in here and bids a nickel or $100 or so less than him, I've got the integrity to honor what these gentlemen have been trying to do. I think this committee does. Well, it could be.
Yeah, but I agree with you.
Are there any other packages to open?
There's one other, it's the letter from.
Is that what this is?
Yes, sir, it is.
I think that's the
And
original.
Carla pointed something out. We sent out notifications for an RFP to 5 different entities that are engaged in this kind of business. The fact that they didn't respond the first time is no guarantee they wouldn't respond the second time. I don't think the committee can make that inference. Can't infer that they would or they wouldn't.
So my understanding is the bids that we have tonight is just a no bid.
That is correct. There was a
And
notification.
waste
It was a notification that they were not going to respond. There was a notification.
What? So if we were to, it looks like that's what we're doing. If we were to open this bid, this is what we would have opened up. That's what it would look like for this right here.
Correct.
And that would have been the only bid.
That is correct. There would have been only one bid. There would have been only one proposal to consider. And so that's what's before us now.
Well, Mr. Chairman, to do what we would normally do, and we've done 1,000 times, I move that we take these 2 documents under advisement. I would like to also add to my motion that we add the contract from Waste Management, take this under advisement, refer this also to Public Works for their review.
We have a motion to take the RFP and the contract under advisement and send it to Public Works. Is that accurate?
For their review, yes.
For their review.
I'll second it, but Trey, I would like to see maybe budget added to your motion. that Public Works and Budget.
Okay. When does budget?
Next Thursday,
Public Works meets next Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Okay, and what would be the next purchasing meeting at?
September 10th.
Okay, that also then be forwarded to the Budget Committee for their review, and then we will make our decision on September the 10th.
So, to restate the motion, your motion is to take the RFP and contract under advisement and send it to Public Works for review. Subsequent to that, it will be forwarded to Budget for review, come back to purchasing on September 10th. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
So,
We have a second. Discussion.
question, Nick, if Public Works or Budget says, we don't like this, what's the
Yeah,
step?
I think those are just recommendations, and so it needs to come back to this body for a decision. Once it's been through that committee process, they can not pass upon it. They don't have to make a recommendation either way, or they could give a recommendation either way, and ultimately, though, it would come back here on the 10th.
So, and at that time, if it was passed, then we would be through with that, is that correct?
As I sit here today, that's my thinking. This is kind of new territory, but that's what I'm thinking.
I think it's happened before. We've taken stuff under advisement, come back to the next purchasing committee meeting, and not satisfied with any of the bids and decided to rebid it.
Yeah, I know that's happened. I mean, it's not.
That's a possibility.
It's not atypical that this committee seeks the guidance and introspection of other standing committees that have more maybe knowledge base of a particular substantive aspect of a contract. And this would go to the reason why you're wanting to send it to Public Works to look at, and then come back here and do the same thing with other items, I think, but ultimately it needs to come back here.
One other question, if, for instance, Budget looks at this and finds that the contract, as the mayor states, will pay for the transfer station and make us money, we find that that's not the fact, and that we would have to come up with revenue to cover the cost of the transfer station and/or moving stuff. Is that still good, or does that need to go back to the commission?
I think typically the question we ask is it in the budget?
There is no money in the budget for hauling trash, in my opinion. This transfer station contract is the mayor's statement, will pay for the transfer station and pay for the hauling. Like I said, that's why I wanted the budget to look at the contract.
If I may, the reason I said didn't necessarily think it should go to budget was based on, and I want to base a conversation Michael and I had nothing to do with the business plan. Michael, I believe your suggestion was it didn't need to go to budget. Did I misunderstand that?
I don't have any budgetary impacts right now. Contract isn't effective. It may not impact this budget year at all. So we can talk about the future impacts of budget, but as far as the way I read the contract, the version I read, it didn't. There was a small impact on a monthly fee that we that is budgeted for a contracted service in the solid waste fund. But as far as the hauling of trash, contract doesn't. I think the earliest it could go into effect was January, but the transfer station, to the best of my knowledge, isn't even close to opening. So.
Is that why there's no impact, because it hadn't started?
And there's
because the contract doesn't say, or.
I mean, there will be a future cost for sure, but by definition, the way I read the contract, by definition, if they're hauling trash out, it's only from non-residential waste in the county. And so by definition, we would have to take money in when it comes across the scales. And so what I advise the mayor is that would be included in FY26's budget. It could have a very, very small impact in May or June that there's a possibility, but as of right now, it's not open, and I believe there's still another bid for some sewer or tunneling or something. That's not the technical services. So there's really no budgetary impact. There's nothing for me to pass or to recommend that we would do to this year's budget right now.
Let me just see if I can make some, at least clarity in my own mind. If we were to be opening this bid for the first time today, we would look at this contract and could not make a decision on it, and we would take it under advisement. We usually have someone, like a department head, that examines and takes this under advisement and comes back with a recommendation. That's exactly what the Public Works Committee should be doing. Okay, and we've been asked to forward it on to budget for a recommendation. The more people that look at this, the better off we're going to be, and the more transparency we're going to have. So if we're going to go forward with this process, I would suggest that we follow what the motion says, and not only would it be thoroughly vetted in Public Works, but also in budget. So that would add as much transparency to this process as we could possibly have. I don't disagree with what 3 of our commissioners here are saying. I don't disagree with that. My only concern is that we would get right back to the same point that we are right now. And if we're on legal ground by starting this process over today, looking at the contract, taking it under consideration, I'm okay with that too, because in my mind, our end goal is to do what's in the best long-term interest of the citizens of Rutherford County. And that's what I think we should be looking at. And the other issues, as I think Ms. Allen has said really clearly, are other issues. And I just want to stay focused on the purchasing process. And I really do think that our Public Works Committee could give a thoroughly vetting of this contract and ask all the questions that need be. And I would thoroughly appreciate Waste Management attending that Public Works Committee that could ask some of those questions, answer some of those questions that come up as well. Sure. And once again, the commission has asked us to do this, and that's what I think we're doing. So I don't know what else to say, but the outcome and the best interest of the county should be our goal, and nothing else. It should be our goal. So.
Jeff, one thing you just mentioned has been on my mind the whole time, and I asked it back in a previous meeting too, is you mentioned department heads being involved. We have a department head over all of our trash. Solid waste. That department head is not included in this. That department head should be at this table, should be in every discussion about this. That's our expert that was hired to advise us and to operate the solid waste. I know that's under the mayor's office, but he works for this county, our department head. And where is our department head?
I can answer that.
And our department head's not sitting at home because he wants to, I'm sure.
He's had a personal emergency. John.
Well, I asked in a previous meeting, where is our department head? You said we don't need him. That's what you said at that committee meeting.
I think you're mistaken.
No, I'm not mistaken. I listen very well, and I understand what I'm listening to. Instead of just cutting people off, I listen. A lot of people say, well, you're too quiet. Well, I'm listening, and I pick up on a lot.
Would it be?
It was also brought up in this meeting, and I thought it was inappropriate. Maybe it wasn't, but I took it that it was inappropriate. That who hired this company that did this RFP and then was fired because they weren't worth having. I don't know what the point of that was, but yes, Public Works hired that company, just like we would have. We listened to our advisors, the people that we pay good money to advise us, and we hired the company that was suggested. That's exactly what would have happened in this committee. Like I said, I don't know what kind of explanation you can give for bringing that up, but I think it was totally inappropriate. I'd like to amend this motion that's on the table to include a clarification on the comptroller's question. I think it was number 3, when we had the question on. I want that document, or your private message, as you put it, included. I want that at the meeting, and with a clarification from the comptroller. I put that in the form of a motion, amendment.
That's a hostile, that's gonna muddy my motion. That's a
Everything in this
hostile
whole thing has been
amendment.
muddied.
But we need to unmuddy it, and if you wanna bring that motion up after we take care of my motion, then we can do that. But to attach it as
Point of
an
order,
amendment.
point of order, Mr. Chairman.
You recognize.
You have a motion.
And your amendment is an improper amendment. Now, you can make that as a separate motion, Commissioner Johnson,
And why would it not be a proper amendment?
because it's not germane to the core amendment, which is to send this to Public Works and then send this on to budget.
And this is germane because this would probably change my original vote tonight.
Well, I appreciate that.
And it would change some more of the other votes at that committee meeting. It needs to be there. It is germane.
Well, and I'm not saying you can't make the motion for me to bring it. I'm saying that you can't make it, it's an improper amendment to this motion. You can make it as a separate motion after we conclude this motion. I'm not denying the motion, I'm just denying it as an amendment to this motion.
For what reason?
Because it's an improper amendment to the motion, because it's not related to the motion. Do we have any further discussion?
I'd like an opinion from our county attorney. I'm sorry, Nick. I'm not trying to muddy the water.
I understand. I do think it is a better course to keep them separate, Mr. Johnson. I do think that you are able to make that motion separately, but for the purpose of getting it out of this committee, every other person will vote their conscience at the other committees despite your motion, right? And so I think you need to keep them separate.
I stand with it.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Yes.
One, hold on, before we go, Commissioner Johnson has made an excellent point with the department head, and I'd like for some guidance as to who presents the contract to Public Works, and I think it maybe should be Bishop Wagner.
I agree.
I can make that happen.
Okay.
Without objection.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, it would be the intent for Mr. Wagner to be there, Matt Nelson, and hopefully Waste Management as well, so we can get all questions asked. Indeed, before we move on to the vote, if the chairman of Public Works would send an email to the committee members and generate those questions so that we could give ready answers, informed answers prior, that would be of great help. That's a suggestion. Having said that,
Can we get just clarification on exactly what we're voting on?
sure. Commissioner Boyd, we are voting on sending this under advisement to Public Works for review. Subsequent to Public Works, it will go to Budget for review, and after that, it will come back here on the 10th for a final matter. Is that correct, Commissioner
Yes, sir.
Gooch? Commissioner Phillips, is that right?
Yes.
Second. Call the roll.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Macklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner P?
No.
Chairman Carr?
Yes. Any other business before the committee?
Yes.
I got one.
Chairman McAdoo.
I got one response. I tried to sit here, but I can't let the mayor take all this abuse or whatever question I asked
I asked about H&H Engineering because I have no idea. And I need to get all the information I possibly can. But I'm the one that asked that question. And because I didn't know, and I'm trying to get all the information I can, so when it come back to purchasing, then I would have that information. But I'm the one that asked that question. Now, if I did wrong in asking that question, I'm not apologizing, because I need the information. Who did what? I need the information from the beginning to the end, if you want me to make a sensible decision on how I vote.
Commissioner Page, did you want to be recognized?
I wanted to make sure that we made a motion, and I don't mind making a motion. The motion would be to have Nick and or Michael or both contact the comptroller's office and ask them.
I'd be glad to do that without a motion, if you'd like.
Do we need to rebid to come into compliance?
I think
And
that's,
I'd like that done without the mayor's interference.
I appreciate it, but the mayor would not interfere, and the mayor certainly supports Michael or Nick or anybody contacting the comptroller in this regard. Chairman Dean, I appreciate your concern. And with that, we're adjourned.